what really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
Aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It is Wednesday, August 5th, 2020, hump day, middle of the weekday, starting that long, slow glide down to Pauhana Friday and whatever insanity is going to be coming our way for the rest of the week here. We've got a lot to talk about today, and as usual, I'm going to talk about the news until I run out of news. Then we're going to open the phone lines for your comments, questions, observations, and opinions. Mike is in our control room, twiddling the dials, keeping us out of trouble as we head on into the program. Okay, the story of the explosion in Beirut is, shall we put it delicately, evolving and mutating and changing. One story is that apparently a welder at the Beirut port accidentally sparked a fire near that warehouse where 2,700 tons of highly explosive chemicals seized from a ship, ammonium nitrate, were being stored, detonating a blast the size of a small nuclear bomb. They're basically saying it was roughly 1/5 the size of the Hiroshima bomb, which, considering tomorrow's the anniversary of that, it's kind of a little eerie, and people are getting like, oh wow here. But apparently, as of the last count, we had at least 140 people have been killed, thousands injured, 300,000 left utterly homeless. We're starting to see photographs coming out from ground zero, and it really was a huge, huge amount of devastation out there. And it's not like Lebanon had a really good economy to begin with anyway. And the loss of that port there in Beirut, that's going to be a major, major blow. Now, Trump is calling the Beirut explosion a terrible attack, a bomb of some kind, after being briefed by U.S. generals. The U.S. generals have now gone public saying no, that Trump misunderstood what they were saying and that there wasn't a bomb. But like I said, the stories are kind of all over there. And one that we got from, thank you, Global Research up in Canada, which is really good. And they in turn got it from another source that's very reliable, saying that Israel may have tried to bomb a Hezbollah arms depot in an adjacent building and didn't do their due diligence to see what was around that might possibly go off at the same time. And according to this report, which is unconfirmed at this time, Israel targeted a Hezbollah weapons depot at the port and planned to destroy it with an explosive device. Tragically, Israeli intelligence did not perform due diligence on their target. They did not know, or if they did know, they didn't care, that there were 2,700 tons of ammonium nitrate stored in the next door warehouse, and the explosion at the arms depot ignited the next door warehouse, causing the catastrophe that resulted. Interestingly enough, Israel has offered humanitarian aid to Lebanon, even though they are normally hostile towards each other. Israel has come on in and said that they're willing to provide pharmaceuticals and medical supplies to deal with the people who got wounded in this explosion. So kind of hard to know what's really going on here. But apparently the International Criminal Court has already been investigating Israel for war crimes in Gaza since the 2014 Operation Protective Edge. Now they may even look into this. But of course, with an explosion that huge, it's going to be hard to find any evidence one way or the other. Now, Lebanon's official point of view is that ammonium nitrate should not have been stored there for 6 years in that warehouse. And apparently Lebanon has placed every official responsible for the security of the port for the last 6 years under house arrest as it investigates the explosion. Now, the country's political leaders vowed those responsible for the tragedy would pay the price, but customs officials pointed the finger of blame back at them, saying they were repeatedly warned of the danger but failed to act. And apparently it came as an astonishing photo emerged purporting to show the dock's warehouse 12 filled with ammonium nitrate with the highly explosive chemical stored in simple construction sacks, no other protection in place whatsoever. So, boy, when they have an industrial accident, they don't mess around, do they? Now, apparently, all of this material was confiscated from a Russian businessman, and the explosives were impounded 6 years ago, and it just sort of hung there in bureaucratic limbo for the longest time. Now, former Israeli member of the Knesset, Moshe Feiglin, gleefully hailed yesterday's explosion in Beirut as a gift from God in time for the Jewish festival of Tu B'Av. Feiglin posted on Facebook that he thanked God that the deadly blast took place in Beirut and claimed it was just in time for Tu B'Av, which is a festival of love, and in modern times has become a romantic Jewish holiday for dancing, handing out flowers, and singing. I don't know. Somehow it's hard to relate that description of the holiday with blowing up a city. So then, of course, we have our own problems here in the United States of America. At least 7 people are dead and more than 3 million are without power across the Northeast as tropical storm, I keep mispronouncing this, Isaias, pummels New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, unleashing tornadoes and flooding. I miss the good old days when hurricanes were named like Bob and John. What a mess here. And there's been a massive fire that broke out in Tehran's industrial zone, and apparently 3 warehouses burned there around 7 a.m. yesterday. The warehouses were used to store manufactured goods, including wood and leather. No casualties reported. I actually saw this on TV earlier today when a reporter was asking Joe Biden, was he willing to take Trump's cognitive test? And Joe Biden came back and said, no, I'm not going to take the cognitive test. That's like me demanding you take a cocaine test before you interview me. He says, are you a junkie? Oh, you're getting awfully defensive. Arizona, Georgia, and Texas. Joe Biden goes after the Donald Trump country in massive campaign push that will see $280 million in TV ads in 15 states. Biden's campaign announced in a memo earlier today it has reserved $280 million in a digital and television advertising push that will run through the fall in several battleground states. Okay, Fox News host is asking if Joe is actually going to show up for the debates. Joe Biden is saying, yes, he will show up for 3, but no more than that. And unfortunately, Trump is very concerned because the debates as scheduled are after the mail-in ballots go out. And he doesn't think it's appropriate for people to have an opportunity to vote before they've had an opportunity to see him debate Joe Biden. So he's calling for a 4th debate to be held much earlier than the end of September. And of course, the Biden camp is saying, absolutely not, absolutely not. All right. Apparently, Joe Biden had a streaming video of his unveiling of his Latino agenda last night, and apparently a grand total of 136 people tuned in. In a fair election, this guy would not stand a chance. Absolutely. We mentioned this earlier. In fact, I think we mentioned it yesterday. We're going to mention it again. A Manhattan judge on Monday ordered election officials to count thousands of mail-in ballots previously declared invalid for not having postmarks. Okay, well, if they don't have postmarks, where did they come from? Did somebody just drive a van up to the back of the counting house and wheel out these boxes of ballots to be counted? That judge should never have done that. If there is the least suspicion that these ballots are fake, they should be discarded. Apparently, some of them arrived after the June 23rd primary. I mean, they're not even trying to hide the cheating anymore. The June 23 primary goes the wrong way. Oh, look, all of a sudden, we've got a whole bunch of new ballots, mail-in ballots. They're late, but count them anyway. They don't have postmarks. Count them anyway. And the judge said, yep, we're going to count the ballots. We're going to count the ballots. Sick. Apparently, anonymous leftist operatives in Washington state are writing Florida residents to tell them to vote by mail. Apparently, residents in Broward County, Florida, received letters from Democrats in Washington state encouraging them to ask local officials to vote by mail. That's how they're going to steal the election. Over in Los Angeles, Skid Row, 4 men admit to paying homeless people cash and cigarettes in exchange for forged signatures on ballots and voter registration forms. And here's one that's really kind of interesting. The mail-in ballots in Colorado have pre-cut holes which reveal the red markings on Republican Party ballots, which makes it easy to quickly sort out and dump unwanted ballots into the recycling bin. It's never been more obvious that this is going to be a rigged election. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. Maybe they just gave up trying to hide it in the age of the internet. The attitude is, yeah, we're going to steal the election. What are you going to do about it? Anyway, we're seeing a lot more surface about the Russiagate investigation, or Obamagate, whatever you want to call it. Sally Yates was testifying today, and apparently a lot of people are very unhappy at what she had to say about the actions of the FBI during this whole crossfire hurricane. President Trump is saying, I do hear it's breathtaking what they found. He said that on Lou Dobbs last night. We're getting more confirmation that the Bidens were behind the $6 million bribe to fire the Ukrainian prosecutor. An individual was reportedly arrested by Ukrainian law enforcement who was attempting to bribe government officials with $6 million to end an investigation into Burisma and Hunter Biden. And apparently, Ukrainian investigators seized $6 million in cash, and arrests were made in an alleged bribe to Ukrainian prosecutors. Now, Ed Buck, you've been hearing about him a lot. His troubles are increasing. He has been hit with 4 additional felony charges related to enticing 2 men to travel to LA for prostitution before they both died in his apartment of meth overdoses. He's the top donor to the Democrats, and that makes it okay, I guess, here. President Donald Trump unloaded earlier today on Black Lives Matter and professional athletes who kneel for the national anthem, declaring that if he loses the 2020 presidential election for speaking out against such issues, he's okay with it. I don't think he's going to lose that election for speaking out about it, because I think a lot of people are fed up with this whole nonsense. For one thing, let us not confuse our dislike for individual human beings operating within our government for the government and the nation itself. And one of the things that I find offensive about kneeling for the anthem, it's an attack on the country itself, not on the people who've wrecked the country. And we do need to have a big black line that separates those. The Constitution and the Bill of Rights are wonderful. And they are the foundation of what, at least at one point, was the greatest nation on earth. If this nation is in trouble today, it's not because of the nation itself. It's because of the people we have unfortunately allowed to hijack the nation for their own purposes. The Clintons, the Obamas, so forth and so on. Well, if somebody writes an anthem to Bill Clinton, I'll kneel for that one. But I'm not going to kneel for the anthem to the United States of America. And we need to remember that differentiation, because that's the dirty trick they're trying to pull. They're trying to get off the hook for their own crimes by saying, oh, no, you're not angry with us. You're not angry with corruption. You're not angry with political machinations. And you're angry with the United States. And we've got to tear down the statues, and we've got to rip up these flags, and we've got to do all of that. And then you'll feel a lot better. Of course, you won't. When it's all over, you'll realize you got suckered again. All right, apparently Black Lives Matter leftists are extorting small businesses. We had a caller the other day called in and said, you know, people have got to be afraid these large corporations are donating money to Antifa and Black Lives Matter, and they could get their buildings burned. No, of course they won't get their buildings burned. If you are financially backing Black Lives Matter and Antifa, you're immune. Nothing will happen to you. And apparently Black Lives Matter's leftists vandalized a Cuban man's restaurant for refusing to pay up. That's extortion. That's the protection racket. That's mafia stuff that they're engaging in. That's organized crime. And nobody's doing a thing about it. In fact, looking at Portland, it looks like the forces of law and order lost the war on that one. We had a caller calling yesterday about this one. Black Lives Matter protesters on their way to harass the Seattle police chief at her home encounter armed locals who are not in the mood to host protests. And of course, the Black Lives Matter Antifa protesters out there saying, we're peaceful. We're peaceful. We're protected by the First Amendment because we're peaceful. Ask the residents of Portland how peaceful these people are. Okay? They're not peaceful. Not when they cause the damage that they're damaging. Peaceful means you stay on the sidewalks, you don't block traffic, you have your little signs, you speak your piece, you go home. You don't sit there for 70 days fighting against the police. That's an insurrection. That's a rebellion. That's not a peaceful protest. And I hate to be the one to tell you this, but the First Amendment right to freedom of speech does not give you the right to resort to violence to coerce other people to your particular point of view politically. In fact, that matches the definition of terrorism under the USA Patriot Act. Apparently, Portland rioters are still attempting to break into the police union headquarters, and they've set fires outside. So tell me again how these people are really peaceful and how we're wrong to get in their way and not let them do what they want to do. Apparently, another peaceful Portland Black Lives Matter Antifa protester has been charged with assaulting a federal officer with an explosive device. But it's a peaceful explosive device. It's hush-a-boom. Doesn't make any noise. For all you Rocky and Bullwinkle fans. So, now, Oregon Senator Ron Wyden says that Trump deployed secret police in Portland to provoke violence for campaign ads. That's a little bit out there. We know who's provoking the violence. We know for what reason. It's got nothing to do with Trump. It's got nothing to do with his campaign ads. It has to do with blaming him for the violence. It's coming from the leftists. They keep saying, even the corporate media is out there saying, yeah, these are leftists. They're Democrats that are out there doing this. Now, here's a good one. I saw this actually on Fox News. The husband of Los Angeles District Attorney Jackie Lacey was hit with misdemeanors after he pointed a gun at Black Lives Matter militants who showed up at his home. And he's a little upset at being charged, but he says he trusts the justice system will see through to it. And, you know, the Fox News, which is what I tend to watch here, you know, was interviewing a spokesperson for the Black Lives Matter saying, we're peaceful. We were peacefully on his porch and peacefully pounding on his door, demanding to see the district attorney here. And it was all being done peacefully. And he pointed a gun at us. My heart bleeds for you. If he says get off his porch, get off his porch. It's private property. If you want to have a peaceful protest, you do it on public land, land that you own collectively. The First Amendment does not give you the right to march into somebody's home if you're not welcome there. I don't think Black Lives Matter and Antifa understand the way they're behaving is not winning them any support. I mean, they got a lot of support with the media. There's no question about that. But they don't have a lot of support among the general public because we're appalled at the rudeness and the impoliteness of these individuals. But we're acting like your classic liberal. I'm right, you're wrong. Just stop arguing with me. I saw this one on TV also. Hawaii Senator Mazie Hirono, who locals refer to as Crazy Mazie, refuses to denounce Antifa and then walks out of the briefing. Ted Cruz had a few choice words for her. And Mazie was saying, sometimes I don't think you listen, Ted. She stormed out of the Antifa hearing after Ted Cruz accuses her party of facilitating riots and violence in U.S. cities. Well, Ted, when you're right, you're right. What can I tell you about that? And again, it's basically spoiled brat behavior on the part of Mazie Hirono. And again, this is all coming from the leftist side. They're trying to stir up violence and blame Republicans for it, and it's not working. They're failing miserably. And that's why they're out there pushing mail-in ballots. They're going to steal the election. They can't scam their way to it. It's not working. The polls are turning against them. The Department of Homeland Security is on the verge of declaring Antifa to be a terrorist organization. They have messed this one up. Now you've got Hillary Clinton is out there insisting that Donald Trump is going to sabotage the post office so that the mail-in ballot system won't work. They're so obvious how they're planning on stealing this election. It's like they don't care if you know. Yes, we stole the election fair and square. This is your tyrant for the next several years. We got to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back after these few words. Welcome back to our show here. And once again, I'd like to remind everybody that whatreallyhappened.com and Republic Broadcasting are in a perpetual state of fundraising. And what makes it very hard for us to do this is we know that you guys are struggling. just to get by. And we're here watching, once again, our Congress, that grand old benevolent asylum for the aged and infirm, arguing over the extension of unemployment benefits and holding up the rest of the coronavirus relief bill that we also desperately need. But the fact of the matter is that things are very tight at Republic Broadcasting. Things are very, very tight at whatreallyhappened.com. And we need whatever help that you can send in right now to keep us going here. So the postal address where you can send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation is 800-724-2719, extension 3. The network thanks you. Okay, getting on back to the news here. Apparently last month, July gun sales set a massive record, 5th month in a row of monster numbers. People are arming up. They know what's coming. They're looking at Antifa. They're looking at Black Lives Matter. They're seeing what happened in Portland and all these other cities. They're realizing the police are not going to be there to protect them. And again, a little lesson from history. When the Nazis came to power, the first thing they did was they stripped the civilian police force of authority and means, and that's what allowed the brown shirts to just go around and do whatever they want and beat up political opponents. And they're repeating the exact same thing here. They're clearing the streets to make the streets safe for Black Lives Matter and Antifa to go on out and just beat the crud out of anybody who doesn't agree with them. But apparently Americans reportedly exercised their Second Amendment right to buy and own firearms in record numbers for the 5th straight month last month, and I'm sure it'll be higher today. And for those of you who are buying guns for the first time, please, 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 please take a gun safety course. Seriously. Now, over in New York, because of the COVID-19, because of the violence, because of, well, it being New York, wealthy New Yorkers are moving away. And Cuomo is now begging wealthy New Yorkers to return to the city to save it from economic ruin while fighting off, calls to raise their taxes, which he feels would permanently drive the top 1% out of the city. And it probably would. New Yorkers are moving to other states. They want out of the city. In fact, there's a big move in general going on from cities to the rural areas. All right, we're going to go ahead and open the phone lines a little bit early today. We've got a caller waiting on the line. James in Japan. Hajimemashite. What's on your mind?
Hajimemashite, Michael. Hajimemashite, Michael.
Thank you.
Nice to see you again. I want to talk about health. I've got to tell you, like 5-6 years ago, you weren't looking great, and then like 2 years after that, you look great. You lost weight. You're jumping around. You're, as we say in Japanese, genki, very healthy and vibrant. Yeah. And I think not just me, but many of your fans and callers and people following your show. Something, I'm just, I know you were sick for a while and I guess recovering, but
yeah, I'm still recovering.
Great. And I just want to say that, I just want to say that, like I see you're taking short steps and you're just not like the Genki that you used to be. And I just want to say, I just really wish that you would take care of yourself better.
Well, I am. I gave up drinking. And I love you a lot. Okay, and I know you do. And, unfortunately, I'm dealing with an autoimmune disorder. And I'm seeing the doctor. In fact, I've got another doctor's appointment on Friday. And it's just going to take a very, very long time for me to get back. Plus there's the fact that I'm just getting OLDER. I turned 68 at the end of this month. And, I wish I was still that young, energetic man that you used to see here on the TV. But I'm afraid he's kind of moved out for a while. But I'm doing the best that I can, and I'm working on getting my health back, and I'm working on trying to lose that weight again. Unfortunately, some of the medicines that the prescription medications I'm on, unfortunately work against losing weight, to put it politely.
Mike, my stepsister, she's a doctor. I had like an autoimmune thing for like a year, about 8-9 years ago. Mm-hmm. And she told me, stay away from any type of wheat product. And And I did that, and I eventually got better, and and it's also good for getting off the weight, losing all the carbs, and then she recommended some nutrients like rhodiola, and I can't remember the other one. And oh yeah, I wanted to tell you, I bought a big bag of I didn't get it yet, but when I get it, I'll send you and Claire some what's it called, the chinchola bark.
Okay.
It's
All right, well, listen,
basically
James,
fine.
stay on the line. James, stay on the line. We got to take a commercial break. I want to hear about this bark, and we'll be right back after these few words. Welcome back to our show. Here we're talking with James in Japan, and we're talking about my Genki, which is my health. And no, it's not the best that it's been, but we are getting better. And it's just going to take a while. The doctors have said don't expect this to be over with anytime soon. But we are working on getting better, and I'm working on, like I said, I quit smoking, I quit drinking, and no more fun. But I'm definitely getting healthier.
Well, I hope you didn't. Well, I hope you didn't quit the other thing. But hey, Mike,
It kind of quit me.
Big bag of the cinchona. I got the big bag of the cinchona bark, which
Okay.
that's what quinine is made out of.
Oh yes,
And,
of course.
I could send you about a huge bag. So, after me and my two kids, I can give you 25% of that bag. That's more than enough for you and Claire. And
Okay.
you take that with zinc, I mean, it might act as a good prophylactic. So when the bag comes in, I'll email you and get your new address. I don't have the new one where you are now. And although you don't deserve it, Michael, because I did send Claire those 7,444 love letters, and you threw them all away. However,
They made a wonderful fire.
Would you believe that one actually got through?
No, I would not believe
the
that.
hairdresser, your neighbor in Honolulu. It went to Bruce the hairdresser in Honolulu, and he accepted my proposal.
Well, good. Congratulations. Where do I send the flowers?
Thank you, Mike. That's all I have to say. And,
all right. Thanks an awful lot.
I'll email you.
Okay.
All right. Later, Mike.
Later. Thank you for the phone call. We're going to switch over to Mark in North Carolina. Hello, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, how you doing, Mike?
I'm doing okay. I promise. I'm doing the best I can.
Good. I just want to mention that explosion there, and before I go into what I really want to say, in Lebanon, if this is the Israelis, there's no way that I think, and we find out that I think this country can keep supporting them. I think people will rebel against that and not tax money, because this would be a war crime of war crime. And what that, I don't know if the defense minister or whatever said, almost like an admission. So to me, it looks bad for them. But anyway, I want to go into yesterday. A couple of callers called mentioning my name. And they said that, one thing, one guy is very easy, I'll just, to dismiss right there, saying that Trump isn't close to the pharmaceutical industry. Well, I forgot what the guy's name was, but let me ask you something, my man. What do you call what he's doing with the vaccine and trying to funding Moderna was like a couple of $1 billion. Okay, is that not close enough to the vaccine, to the pharmaceutical industry for you? Okay, he's much too close to them.
Yes.
And now I want to address what Tom said. And Mike, I just wanted you to know, I plan on voting for Trump, but not because I think he's any good, but I think the alternative is that much worse. Okay,
I agree.
Democrats are so bad, I just can't vote for them. I mean, they've become out and out criminals and traitors to this country, and there's no way I can support them. But as far as Trump goes, Tom, let me ask you something. First of all, one of the reasons I voted for him, and a lot of other people voted, keep us out of wars and stuff like that, was that very good going and bombing twice, 2 years in a row, Syria for a false flag chemical attacks.
Yes.
Any idiot should have known was a false flag. Assad was not behind those. Okay.
It never made sense.
The other thing, Tom, is what about all the other things that Trump is doing? He's a stooge for the Zionists. Okay, a stooge for them. He basically lets Pompeo and Kushner run foreign policy, especially when it comes to the Middle East. Is that what you want, Tom? Is that any good for the United States? And he keeps on funding the Israelis with billions of dollars a year of our hard-earned taxpayers' money, even as this country slides into total bankruptcy. All right? You think that's good, Tom? You think that makes him the greatest president ever, or in your lifetime? He's also funded the Nazis in Ukraine. He did the Democrats' bidding there. After all right, with all the nonsense of the impeachment, he keeps on caving. He keeps on caving to the deep state. When you take a look at in the very beginning of his administration, the biggest mistake he made right there was getting rid of was actually throwing Michael Flynn under the bus. Michael Flynn knew where all the bodies are buried about supporting Al Qaeda and ISIS in the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and he wanted to get to the bottom of it. That's why the deep state hated him so much, and he was the first one that had to go. And they still don't want to let go because they know the minute he's relieved from any kind of legal problem, he's going to go after them, and he knows that the bodies are buried. Yet Trump threw him right under the bus. Okay, is that what you call a good president, Tom? Economically, look at this COVID nonsense now. First of all, he didn't have to lock the country down. If he did, he should have made sure all that money went to the people, not to the corporations, not to the big corporations, not to the big tech companies that are trying to take him out of the elections anyway, not to the big banks, not to Wall Street, not to the big chemical companies, and not to the big pharma. And that's where all the money went, including big corporations like Walmart. That's your idea of a good president, Tom? It's not mine. Okay? That's your idea of a patriot? It's not mine. Now, again, I have no choice but to vote for him because Jesse Ventura said he won't run. They stabbed Tulsi Gabbard in the back enough times that they destroyed her campaign. So what choice is there? Okay? But, Tom, don't give me that nonsense, man. You can't actually believe that this man is the greatest president of your lifetime. Okay? He's a clown. That's all he is. No worse than Obama or Bush or any of the others, but he certainly isn't much better, if he's better at all. Okay? And that's pretty much all I got to say, Tom. That's it. All right, Mike. That's pretty much all I got to say. Thanks.
All right. Well, thanks an awful lot for the phone call. And, I'm sure Tom is out there listening. Trump's a disappointment. There's no two ways about it. When he defeated Hillary Clinton, I was delighted that Hillary was not going to be the president. And, I was saying, okay, we've got this outsider who's going to come in and clean the swamp. It hasn't happened. And whether that's just the nature of the White House experience or because they had some of Jeffrey Epstein's negatives on him or what the deal is, but Trump has been a disappointment. But I still prefer him over Biden, and I prefer anybody over Hillary Clinton. All right, we're going to go back to the phones here to Dan in Washington State. Hello, Dan. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
The call. Thanks for taking the call, Mike. I mean, sometimes I look back, if Al Gore would have won and they would have put Social Security in a lockbox, doesn't Al Gore look better and better right now? I look at Al Gore and I'm like, why didn't we go for him? But
yeah, anyway, but if Al Gore had won, we'd all be up to our neck in carbon taxes.
That's fine, but we might not have gone to Iraq, might not have had Afghanistan. It's hard to say.
I don't know. Wars presidents may come and presidents may go, but the wars go on forever.
Okay. My point, kind of like the last caller, I'm not going to vote this time. I'm just really disappointed in the Republicans. I've come to the conclusion that the Republican Party is just there to disarm the people in opposition to the Democrat agenda. Like, the Republican Party is worse than nothing in a way. So just look at what they've done. Okay, the monuments that came down, Tom in Florida, you know, I had a disagreement about the South, but Trump comes out and says he's going to rebuild the monuments, but not the Confederate ones. Okay. So right there, he betrayed his, you know, the people. He let Antifa win. You know, he should have rebuilt all the monuments unless the people vote to take them down. So the Republicans are wimps. And look at what happened to Chris Kobach, Jeff Sessions, and Steve King. No, Steve King kind of was a character, you know, but Chris Kobach was good on immigration, right? Kind of a pro-nationalist. And it's like they just decided to not support him for some reason. Again, the Republicans are wimps, you know, and they are there just to take out the opposition to the Democrat Party. So
I'm not sure I agree with that. I think basically what we have is a bunch of people who are out for their own self-interest, and occasionally they collide.
Well, why did they go overboard? Like Chris Kobach, especially, he didn't do anything real controversial. You know, they never. Okay, let me give you another example. Hate crimes. Okay.
Yeah.
For years, conservatives were against hate crimes, and you can make a logical reason, like we punish the crime, not the thought behind the crime in a free,
yes,
you know, Western. So that's all they had to say, but they go along, and the Democrats eventually get their hate crimes. And what do the Republicans do? Do they try to stop it? No, they go around and say, hey, we're going to use the hate crimes law to go against Nazis, you know, or try to make it look like we're anti-racist. They don't. So they didn't just give up. They reversed their position, and now they're going to be the most avid promoters of hate crimes. And they will do the same thing with free speech. They'll do hate speech. They'll pretend to oppose it. The Democrats will eventually get it, and then the Republicans will turn on their base and say, look, they'll go after their base more than anything, in my view. So I just, you know, they want to steal our Social Security money. They haven't done crap to bring jobs back.
Nope.
They lowered the minimum wage. You could say they've lowered the minimum wage because I remember Bill O'Reilly, even when Obama was in there, they were talking about raising it to what, $10 an hour, and that was it 10?
It was something like that. But I mean, when you look at the increase in cost of living, if the minimum wage isn't keeping up with the cost of living, then yeah, that's a net loss.
Exactly. So I'm just I'm not going to vote at all. I'm not falling for these games. I actually think the Republicans are behind the Antifa and I think, well, look, it's an oligarchy. The oligarchs are funding Black Lives Matter. They tore down the statues. Trump conveniently didn't rebuild the ones that they didn't want rebuilt anyway. And it's just all a game. And the handling of this virus is ridiculous, and the way it's being politicized. Another example, when Trump comes out and says, well, how about I take hydrochloroquine? And it's like, you know, so where's the accountability? If he's taking it and it works, why isn't he go out there saying we need to distribute this to the public? You know, he doesn't. He just says, I got
Lou
my.
Rockwell had a really good article about that earlier today. We're basically saying, you know, again, it's all driven by the money. You've got, you know, all these people inside government who own stock in the pharmaceutical industries. They don't want to go with a 65-year-old cure that works. They want to find some kind of a treatment that's going to make them a lot of money.
Right, and I just think it's a game. Trump he tweets stuff out to get his base think that, oh, they're making me go along with it. It's the evil Democrats want you to wear a mask, and it's just been a tragedy in my view. So I'm not voting. I would recommend people, if you want to support Trump, fine, but vote against the Republicans. And I can't say I'm going to vote Democrat, but I think in the end, the Democrats will win. What we need is a pro-white group within the Democrat Party, and just get rid of Republicans altogether. You know? Yeah, that's because I can't think of any good that Republicans have done my entire life, really, except maybe stop a few gun laws. But you know, they pretty much lost on everything my entire life. So they just, anyway, that's all I got. My positive attitude for the day. So.
All right, Dan. Well, thank you
Thanks.
for your positive attitude for the day here. We're going to let you go. The lines are full right now, so if you get a busy signal, try again. Let's go to Peter in Los Angeles. Hello, Peter. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, hi, Mike. I'm sure that that was a very disjointed piece of logic in that last call.
Yes.
But nevertheless, I'm sure that you've seen. I know you've seen the newly released George Floyd tapes.
Yes.
That just got released. It shows for 8.5 minutes he resisted arrest. He complained about breathing. Of course, we know he was on
Fentanyl.
Fentanyl, enough to kill you. We also know he had COVID, another lung affliction, and the police seem to treat him with undue deference, if in my opinion. But nevertheless, you read the question I want to ask, and I want to begin with here is why, after 2 months, that happened on May 25th or 24th, why is that just coming out now? Why wasn't that released right away? And I would tell you that it's...
Go ahead.
Well, I think the media certainly has an agenda.
I agree.
The agenda is to get us, the agenda is divide and conquer, to divide, just like they haven't informed the black population about their horrendous crime statistics and make it look like, and make them feel like they're enabled and entitled to riot and resist and do all the things they're doing, when in reality it's an anomaly when they're mistreated. But nevertheless, they've been specifically misinformed for decades.
Yes.
And who's doing it? Why are they doing it? Well, they're doing it, and again, they're a convenient cat's paw, a convenient way to break the country down. It's happened my entire life from the 60s on up. At any rate, and then nobody covers it. The New York Times didn't cover this release of this. It wasn't released for so long, and then they still didn't cover the new release of this. So at any rate, I'm looking, and I think, Mike, that we have been. I think that the banks, I think that the bankers and the people that run the media, they're the same people who also own.
Hey, Peter, I need to put you on hold.
Sure.
Don't hang up. We're going to come right back to you after these two words. Welcome back to our show. Here we're talking with Peter in Los Angeles. And Peter, if you could just sort of pick up where you left off.
Well, I'm saying that this is orchestrated. And again, as I've said before, the longer that COVID goes, the richer the central bankers get. The less, as they buy up the stock exchange, the fewer privately held businesses will survive. They're also using it to get the election going. They're using it, the poverty that is it's destroying the middle class, of course, and the desperation that's engendering, and much of the population is putting us on the streets, where they have also failed to inform us properly about what's going on, like George Floyd, the way he died, like the crime statistics. To divide us up by race, divide us up by gender, divide us up by every way they can divide us up, and we're not getting relief. By the way, all these things are coming to a head. I can't see us, Mike, making it through November, December at the latest, without armed civil war. We'll have the economy crashing, and what's the economist's name? Schiff, who says the dollar is going to collapse coming up in November, December. So there'll be a collapse of the dollar. The American empire militarily is collapsing. The COVID thing will be going on to probably a third iteration. They'll keep that going through the felonious mail-in voting that it enables, which enables massive cheating. Neither side will recognize and the other side's win. Certainly, I won't recognize a Democratic win. It's going to be completely gamed. The intelligence agencies are against Trump and they've weighed in on it as well. All these people who are going to be homeless and rentless and their cars repossessed in that time, hungry, pissed off, dispossessed, angry, and with no relief in sight. By the way, Congress, Democratic Congress, adjourned themselves before giving relief to renters. All this has been orchestrated. It's right out of, you can take your pick. It's right out of the Communist Manifesto or the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. It's really, look what, and who's going to get richer? Who's going to own the world when this is over? They'll own every single publicly held company. There'll be no competition, and they own both parties, so it doesn't matter to them who wins. Trump is a toady to Israel, no doubt about it. So is Biden. He's a toady to Israel too. So you have one guy will be lucky not to be drooling and wandering around naked on the White House lawn and is in some sort of dementia-induced thing. Another guy who's a complete toady to them anyway. At any rate, I can't see us, Mike, making it past all these fissures that have been planted and exploited with armed. I'm talking about armed conflict by November and we may have been in it since last November when they didn't accept that election either.
You mean 2016?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, Peter, I got to let you go. We got to take a break for station identification. We got callers waiting on the line. We'll be right back after these few words. Welcome back to our show. Hour number 2. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. We've got lots and lots of callers. So let's go to Andy in Texas. Hello, Andy. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well,
Andy,
hey, Mike.
There you are.
There we are. Hey, Mike, thanks for taking my call. First off, I want to go back to that Dave guy who got all that you spent $10,000. I say, hey, awesome, dude. But let me say this: take that money and help some people that don't have, that couldn't get what you got. Because the government stole from us all our lives. You got it back, man. Don't sit here and brag to us on the phone and stuff how much you got. Stuff. Take that money and help some people out that are, and there are.
Donate to RBN.
Okay. Exactly, and that was what I was thinking when he was talking about that. It's like, you're talking about $10,000. Holy crap! Send a couple grand to RBN. Let's go. So a couple of fun facts I wanted to throw out here, and then I'll get to what I wanted to say. Does anybody out there know when that emergency number 911 was put into effect? Do you know?
Oh, it's been a while.
1968.
Okay.
No, and it wasn't around the whole country. It was in places like New York and Chicago and whatnot. But 33 years later, that is a Masonic type number. What's that come to? 2001? And what happened then? 9/11. So there you go. There's something there. Here's another fun fact. What was Bill de Blasio's first name before he changed it in 2002?
Somebody sent me a graphic showing.
It was William Wilhelm.
Yeah.
So the bill was good. William and Bill is good, but Wilhelm, I mean, he's governing a bunch of Jewish folks up there and stuff. I don't think a Wilhelm would have got him elected. So he changed it to de Blasio. Now, there's a couple of fun facts right there. Now, okay, so you're not you're an atheist. I'm an agnostic. And I have some problems with the Bible. In the Old Testament, God tells us that we're all his sons and daughters. And I was like, great, I'm a son and daughter of God and whatnot. And then all of a sudden this New Testament comes up and we find out that there's the only begotten Son. And this really bothers me because, I mean, after reading the New Testament, I'm feeling like I'm his son. My wife is his daughter and my son is his son and my daughter is his daughter and stuff. And then all of a sudden, in the New Testament, we've got the only begotten Son. And then we look at people like Jordan Maxwell, who has done some vigorous digging in. And we find out that the ancient people have been, the Son of God. They called the Son of God. He wasn't born yet. But they called this thing the Son of God, and it happens to be the S-U-N of God. The Son of God. And then we attribute that to the S-O-N of God, the guy who brought us fish and brought us wine and brought us bread. But none of that could be possible without the S-U-N of God, the Son of God. The sun ripens the wheat so you can make bread. The sun warms the water so the fish can live. The sun ripens the grapes so you can make wine.
Without the sun, we wouldn't be here. We understand that. That's not religion. That's science.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. I think these people in the New Testament, no offense to Christians, none whatsoever, but I really would like to put out there just an inkling in the Christians' ideas that maybe they are being duped here. Okay? There is a God. It's called Earth. And Earth resonates around us, and there's a vibration. And when you take your shoes off and you walk on the ground, you get grounded and you feel better. You're healed from it. We are part of this earth. I'm not saying I'm into this, we evolved and whatnot. There is something bigger and better, but I think we've been duped. And my fear is that the Christians, the first commandment of the Old Testament is, there shall be no God before me. And yet we've been led to believe that Jesus is the flesh of the God. So have they been fooled? Do I know this? I don't know. I'm suggesting this. Is there a God before God? Have we been duped? Is Jesus really the morning star? Is he really the Antichrist? Could he be? I'm not suggesting that I know this. I'm not. Yes.
Andy, I hate to cut you off here, but, we're not a religious program here, and there are a whole bunch of other callers waiting to get on the line. And so with all due apologies and respect to your particular belief structure, I'm going to let you go here, and we're going to switch over to Miles in Maine, who's been waiting very, very patiently. Miles, what's on your mind?
Aloha, Michael. There's a lot of guys that call in here that ramble on way too long with only a little over an hour of talk.
Yes.
Commentary coming in. And Andy's obviously not aware that Dave is a troll. That guy Dan is a big-time troll. He's a philosopher straight in line with Bernie Sanders. Today Mark just astonished me. He's going to jump on Trump. This is another one on the Trump hate team. Let me tell you what Trump's done. He's straightened out some of these trade deals. He is bringing jobs back to the U.S. He has. And that's one reason they're acting and behaving in this manner against him and creating all these con games, coronaviruses, and whatever else they can come up with.
Mm-hmm.
Trump's also got these federal court positions pretty well straight. Trump has given a tax cut. Some say it's not as good, but I know what? I talk to people in business all the time, just mom and pop businesses that say it's helped them. Okay? Trump stepped up with this stimulus, like it or not, and it did keep a lot of people alive. He fights with these Democrats left and right, and they try and make him look bad. That's no secret. Who was the guy that exposed and brought out hydroxychloroquine? Wasn't his name Trump? Because no one else mentioned nothing about it up to then. So don't give me this Trump ain't doing nothing. He might not be doing what you want, but he's doing something. Now, why isn't he taking on Israel? Well, who in the hell is? Tell me one candidate that is or would. And he's doing as best as he can with them and keeping them in. Oh, and by the way, wasn't it Trump that kept us from going to war with Iran? Yeah, I believe it was. So I don't want to hear this stuff. Is just so stupid by these people that, as you say in the commercial, Mike, where these are supposed to be the most intelligent callers. Let's start showing it. Absolutely ridiculous. Then he comes up with his stellar candidate, Tulsi Gabbard, open borders. Let's get the guns. Miss CFR. Great job, Mark. Excellent idea. Yeah, that's what we need. What the hell's going on with these people? They got something in their water, or they take the vaccine, or what the hell happened? They put the mask on like Dustin? I don't know. What's going on? These guys aren't even awake anymore. And then, it's just ridiculous, what Trump has had to fight through with these people. But I still see, you know what? Oh, we'll never see an indictment. Well, guess what? We're seeing indictments. What do you got to say about that?
Name one.
So, name one? Well, okay, what about all this stuff with Maxwell and everything? And this whole line on down the line. Now it's up to Barr. And that's another thing. People blame Trump. I don't see Hillary Clinton in jail. What do you want Trump to do? Go up and kick her in the ass and put handcuffs on her? He can only do so much. He's got a Congress that's controlled by you-know-who, a Senate controlled by you-know-who, a State Department controlled by you-know-who. And he's still effective, more effective by light years than any candidate. But here's what happens when you come up and ask them, well, who would they vote for? Who do they want? This is the brains, genius. They come up, oh, Tulsi Gabbard. Yeah, she's open borders, take your gun. The CFR, how quick do you think she'll have a globalist plan right up your rear end? So that it's just nonsense, Mike.
Okay, Miles, let me ask you a question. Miles, if you could pick anybody to be the president of the United States, who would you pick?
Right now, this minute, Trump, because Trump's in there, he knows the game, he knows the players, and he's light years ahead of people. Now, I've been a Ron Paul supporter, but let me tell you something. Ron Paul had a chance to drop the hammer on John McCain, and he did nothing, and it ended up costing him. Because at that time, Ron Paul actually had a bunch of money. He actually had a whole bunch of money, and McCain was bankrupt just about. Remember, his campaign was almost wiped out. Ron Paul could have put the nail in his coffin, and he didn't do it. And I love Ron Paul. I worked for Ron Paul. Ron Paul's one doggone good man, but he don't have it. Trump at least has the ability to get dirty subtly, and you might not understand it. A lot of people might not, and I'll never tell you he does everything right. But I mean, my God, the guy's not a politician. I mean, he's really not a politician. Isn't that what everybody said they wanted? We want a man from the business world. We want to run the United States like a business. Well, you're getting it now. And Trump look at what he did now with this Federal Reserve. He's bringing them under the control. So far, we don't know what that's going to mean, but I mean, it's got to be better than anything we've seen before. So give Trump a break. I mean, and then this idiot, I hope that wasn't Tony from Chicago, because I got a lot of respect for Tony.
We've given Trump a break for going on 4 years now. And,
let's see what he can do his second term with his ears pinned back. And not having to worry about all this
what he did in his first term. I mean, he came in here making some specific promises about draining the swamp and getting Hillary in jail and getting honest elections and, dealing with the child trafficking.
Wait a minute. We can't blame Trump for that when we got Sessions that wouldn't do nothing, when we got a Congress and Senate that won't work with them. How can we just continuously blame Trump for that?
Well, because Trump could have fired Sessions. Trump could start firing people left and right. I mean, he certainly had enough practice on The Apprentice. I mean, that's his job in the executive branch. Now, he can't fire the members of Congress, obviously. Yeah, right. He should have fired some people and sent out the message saying, do your job or you're out of here.
Okay, right. But what happens when you start firing people in the election, in the middle of an election year, and you have that going on? I'm not talking about the election year.
I'm talking about the last 3 years.
Okay, he could have maybe done it back then.
Yes, he could have.
Their hands weren't played out back then. But I want to get back to that
Frankly, Trump's biggest mistake was not scraping out the executive branch when he first took the job and bringing his own people. That was his biggest
I would agree.
Okay.
And I would agree with that, Michael. I would agree with that wholeheartedly. But I want to get back to that one caller who says he's not going to vote. He's not going to vote for Trump because you don't like the Republicans. You don't like the. I don't understand that. If you don't like the Republicans, why wouldn't you vote for the guy and support the guy that they can't stand and hate and they try and sabotage at every turn? I don't understand that. Why wouldn't you get out here and be the biggest Trump supporter in the world? Say, yeah, kick that Republican Party right in the can.
Well, I think more to the point, if he doesn't vote, somebody's going to vote on his behalf for somebody who really doesn't like.
Well, you are exactly right, Michael. And so these people with this stupid stuff, and then this other, let's get the libertarians that have never been elected to anything, hardly, unless it's on the local level. Let's get them in there. And they can't even get on the ballot in all 50 states. So let's get them in and try and win with 2/3 of the country. Just silly. It's like this stupid thing they pull out every couple of years, COS, Convention of States.
Yes.
I mean, I hear that stupid stuff. You know what? I don't see any Thomas Jeffersons and James Madisons running around. You want to try a conference of states with these idiots that they don't even have cursive writing in school? You know what that's going to be like? Parliamentary rules open, parliamentary rules closed, parliamentary rule, get the hell out of here, we're done, and you got all your rights taken. Goodbye. That's what that's going to be like.
Mm-hmm.
These people don't even know Robert's rules. They don't know anything. And they want to run a constitution. Are you kidding me? The insanity here. Every day I wake up lately, Michael, I'm wondering, I think I'm on another planet.
Yep.
Every night I go to bed, I wake up to a worse world than when I went to sleep.
Sometimes I wonder if I haven't died and gone to hell.
Yeah. Well, I want you to get your health back, and I want you to help these guys get their sanity back. And we love you, Michael. Take care of yourself. Keep up everything you're supposed to be doing. Take your vitamins, drink the good water, and God bless and protect you. And
I'm doing all that stuff right now. I'm definitely doing all that stuff. Thank you for the phone calls and for the good wishes. We're going to switch over to Dave in Maryland. Hello, Dave. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, what's going on, Mike? I had a couple things on my mind, but I first wanted to start off with how Trump started off his election. He told Hillary Clinton to take a bow and that he never intended to lock her up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You don't remember that?
I remember that.
He said, take a bow for your performance. You did a good job, and that he never intended to lock her up. So there you go. And then he also wished Ghislaine Maxwell well the other day. He said, I hope she's well. I hope she makes out fine. She's well. He was
I have a real problem with that.
His whole life.
I have a real problem with that. I mean, he's wishing a child trafficker well. I could never bring myself to do that.
Well, that's how he met Melania, through Ghislaine Maxwell. Look it up. So anyway, I wanted to talk about the Russian boat captain, though. That was my original call. That's what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
Do we know anything really about like his background or anything? Like, it was supposedly 6 years ago. So I mean, that would be a long time. Like, that would be like a long time setup. I mean,
yeah.
You know, a lot of these Russian guys, these Soviets, you know, they're Jewish, Mike. I mean, it's just the truth. Like, a lot of these, you know, supposedly Putin kicked out the oligarchs and all that. He really didn't, because Putin is a Zionist just as much as Donald Trump is. I mean, that's the truth. I mean, people don't want to hear it, but I mean, that's just how it is. So I don't know. I saw where the IDF's official Twitter page designated that same location where the explosion went off as a underground missile base for Hezbollah, like the same area. So I'm not saying that, you know, anything happened. It's just, you know, critical thinking skills. It's just, you know, I don't know. So I just saw that. I know the IDF, and then instantly Israel was like, we didn't have anything to do with it. And then they offered humanitarian aid. So,
yeah.
You know, and then, you know, all the mainstream media instantly is out there saying that Israel's going to come help in Lebanon, and, you know, they're going to be there for it, and da, 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 da. I mean, the way I look at it is all these governments and all these supposed leaders, they're all in lockstep together. That's the key word, lockstep. Iran.
I think the only thing they're in lockstep in is their stupidity. I mean, you know, that much weight of ammonium nitrate sitting for 6 years, it's going to become naturally unstable. And, you know, it's soluble in water. It was stored in construction sacks. We don't know if that roof was leaking. Yeah. I mean, it was a disaster waiting to happen. And I'm not surprised that Lebanon has placed all those officials under house arrest. That was just whoever made the decision to leave that stuff sitting there, that's who's to blame for the disaster.
You know, hopefully they'll have some CCTV footage cameras of, you know, of what, you know, who was going in and out of that building a couple days before. You know, we'll see. But anyway, that's, you know, I just, like I said, I feel like that Putin, Trump, the Ayatollahs, Assad, all of them, Erdogan, even Kim Jong-un, they're all in it together. It's a big old stage, Mike. They're all in it together. That's what I think. You can check
I
out,
disagree with you, obviously. I think they're all in it for themselves or for their country. Hopefully, they're in it for their own particular country. Some of them are just in it for themselves. I don't think they're in lockstep because, frankly, I think the world would be better organized if they were all cooperating with each other.
well, in every country at the same time, they all made people wear masks.
Well, that was in response to a global stimulus, which is called the coronavirus.
No, I get you. And then one other thing, you were talking about carbon taxes earlier.
Yeah.
Trump, he signed the USMCA. It's NAFTA 2.0. That's all it is.
Yeah.
The same guy that wrote the TPP that, remember it was like he was against all the TPP and all his rallies, and then Obama was on Saturday Night Live. You done with TPP? All that. The same guy that wrote the TPP, he wrote the USMCA.
Yes.
So, I mean, come on. You're going to tell me?
Yeah.
Can you hold me over? I got like 2 more things to say.
All right, I'm going to hold you over. Don't go away. I'm going to put you on hold for 2 more things when we come back from these words. And welcome back to our show here. We're talking with Dave in Maryland. And Dave, you said you had 2 more things you wanted to talk about.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about Operation Warp Speed, Trump's fast-track vaccine.
Yes.
Yeah, the one that he's going to roll out with the military.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how does that make, like, how can you rationalize that as a Trump supporter? Like, I don't understand what planet these people are living on. I mean, he literally said that he's going to have a fast-track vaccine and he's going to roll it out with the military. I mean, so what is that, like some type of 4D chess or something? I mean,
something like that. Well, I don't agree with it, obviously. And being a Trump supporter doesn't necessarily mean agreeing automatically with everything that they're doing. That's true for everybody. Somebody can be a Ron Paul supporter but not agree with his entire agenda. In fact, nobody should be that way. You can say, I support Donald Trump overall because of what he's doing, but I have exceptions for certain things that he's doing, like support for Israel and fast-tracking vaccines and making them mandatory. We shouldn't agree with everything that somebody says. Take it on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, it's hard, though, because it's cognitive dissonance. Like, you can literally put these facts in front of these people's faces and tell them this stuff, and they're like, oh, well, no, it's not real, and Trump is just smarter than all of us, and like, it's just, I mean, just like how he signed over the economy to BlackRock. I mean, and then he was bailed out by 13 Jewish bankers and then put Wilbur Ross in power. I mean, as Treasury Secretary. And he flew on Epstein's jet with his brother. Yeah. It's like evident. It's clear. So, I mean, I don't know, Mike. I guess, the brainwashing is...
as George Carlin used to say, yeah. Yeah, as George Carlin used to say, not in it. Yeah, that's certainly true. Okay. And I don't think Donald Trump is really all that much smarter. He's done a lot of things that I think are just downright stupid. But once again, we're in a situation where we're forced to pick the lesser of 2 evils. And right now, from where I sit, Trump is less evil than Biden.
I hear you. And then he would always read the snake poem. And it's funny because it's like, in reality, he was saying that he was the snake. And it's like, you knew he was a snake when you let him in, and people are still going along with it. Just like how he's wearing a mask now, and it's funny. But I don't know. I guess I'll let other callers know. But I do donate and I tip well with my petrol dollars that I get from the state. I do tip well, and I go out and I support local businesses, farmers markets, and stuff like that. And I go into like a couple certain stores. I don't wear a mask. I don't wear a mask at all. I go into like certain areas, and I know which stores I go to, and I vote with my dollars. So.
All right. Well, good for you. Anyway. And again, the issue about the masks.
No, because the one caller was, I know. It's funny. I know. It's cool.
Okay. So Dave, anyway. We're going to let you go. Dave, we're going to let you go. Thank you for the phone call. The lines are full right now. We're going to go to Ken in New York. Hello, Ken. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. I'm thinking about what some people say that they're hoping for maybe some kind of an insurrection or a revolution in the country. And then
Well, I'm not hoping for one, but I think it's inevitable.
Well, I don't mean you specifically, but what I'm saying is I'm talking about choices and what would actually get the job done. I think the fastest way to get the job done, rather than depend on the vote or revolution, would be if somebody would take that blackmail book and start reading names and details.
I agree.
Think least destructive. It would be like a physics. 2 sips and you feel a you-know-what coming on. It would flush out the system.
Yeah, I think that would be a really good thing if all of this blackmail information that Epstein has collected over the years were simply made public. Just dump it out in public, get it over and done with, because that way you take away the power from the blackmailers. That's the only way you take the power away from the blackmailers, is you make the blackmail public. And again, part of the problem is that we have individuals who, once they get into positions of power, they think they can get away with things like sex with underage girls. And again, you have to wonder at the sheer stupidity of anybody who would have gone into any of Epstein's houses or his island and not know that they were being videotaped.
Well, not know that there was something amiss going on. Why would you even put yourself in a position to let yourself be in a plane with somebody like that?
Exactly. Yeah. Why even take the chance? Why even take the chance? Unless, you remember what Bill Clinton said about he owed Epstein some kind of a favor. Maybe somebody says, if you want to get to be the president or you want to get to be a senator or something, you have to do something we can control you with. So here, we're going to send you over to Israel on a fact-finding committee, or we're going to send you down to Epstein's island, and you're going to go ahead and you're going to do something really icky. We're going to take videotapes of you doing it. And after that, you're in the club. You get to advance to a higher level because we know we can count on you.
Yes, I think it would be the cleanest way out of it and least disruptive. Can I ask for a bumper?
Yeah, stay on the line. We'll be right back after these few words. Welcome back to our show here, and my apologies to those of you trying to watch on YouTube. Apparently, we've lost our video feed, and we're not able to get it back immediately. We're still working on that, trying to pour some more kibble on the giant mutant hamster that powers all of this stuff. We're talking with Ken in New York, and Ken, if you could sort of pick up where you left off.
Yes. I would ask, even though it doesn't actually apply, you could play some selected bars from Maxwell's Silver Hammer occasionally.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. Thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Dave in Michigan. Hello, Dave. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. Thanks for taking my call. I want to apologize for that Ted Nugent quote on the Trump hat. I didn't think it would be a problem because it was a quote. But anyway, I do want to talk about Event 201. But first, I'd like to comment on some of the callers. I think, Trump is probably the best thing that we've got right now, and the last term as well. Even though he isn't perfect, and we really have no way of knowing all the truth, right? And what have they been telling us for thousands of years, that the world is a stage? And what do they call military actions are theater, right? It's all theater. Why would they call it that if it wasn't fake? And I don't mean fake. I mean all, designed, all scripted, right? So, now back to Event 201, the main reason I'm calling. I think everybody's familiar with Event 201. Amazing Polly. John Stettmiller played her 29-minute, 59-second video on YouTube about Event 201, how this planned sham scam-demic was all planned out by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and all them scumbags that they're related to, planned this whole thing in advance. This meeting took place in October of 2019. Now, I listened to this other guy on another network that I did try to introduce to John to this network, and he's got a show called Gematria Effect News. Gematria, Have you ever heard of that, Mike?
No.
Gematria is merging letters and numbers. It's Masonry and Hebrew. The handlers or the powers that shouldn't be, they use this code, and everything is by the numbers. And let me tell you what I mean by that. So one night, listening to Zach, he decoded all the stuff that equals 201, all right, because of event 201, 201. So the first one was Pope Francis. You add up his name, all right, and each letter has a numerical equivalent, right? A equals 1, and so on. And there's other ways to cipher, but that's the most basic. Pope Francis, his name equals 201. Pope Francis lives in suite 201 at the Vatican. George Perry Floyd equals 201. All these Confederate statues are being torn down. Confederate equals 201. Black Lives Matter, Harriet Tubman. They announced, I think, 2 days before George Perry Floyd that they were going to no longer mint the Harriet Tubman, either a $20 bill or a $20 coin or something. I never saw it, but that Harriet Tubman equals 201.
Okay, well, I need to check your math on some of these things here because, I mean, is there some point to this? I mean, why do something this obvious? This sounds kind of like out there with chemtrails and tinfoil hats.
Oh, you think chemtrails are tinfoil hat? Are you
I
serious?
do.
You don't believe in chemtrails? Have you ever looked at the sky?
I look at the sky a lot. I used to be a professional astronomer, as a matter of fact. All right, Dave, we're going to let you go and switch over to Douglas in Tennessee. And Douglas, are you there?
Hey, Mike. I wanted to
I'm
draw.
doing fine. What's on your mind today?
I just wanted to draw attention to something economic news-wise. I look at the usdebtclock.org website occasionally, and it gives that rolling counter of the national debt. It's got all kinds of other figures on it that are pretty interesting, including the number of government employees and actual working people and taxpayers and whatnot. But the site usdebtclock.org, in the upper right-hand corner, there's a time machine. If you click on 2024, which according to my math, I think I got it right, it's just about 3 years away, national debt is projected to be $45 trillion. We're currently at $26.5 trillion.
Yes.
We've gone up a couple trillion in the past couple months. That's alarming. That ought to send up a flag to people to kind of get ready, because what are you going to do when your national debt is $45 trillion? You already couldn't pay $26 trillion back. If they've already projected it for $45 trillion, and we don't even know who the president is going to be, kind of keep that in mind also. And it kind of leads me to the presumption that perhaps that's also going to include some reparations. And of course,
well, what we're going to do, what the United States government is going to do, is simply go out and bomb people that we owe money to, because that's what they did the last few times.
Yeah, $45 trillion. That's a pretty alarming number, though.
Yes.
And I think reparations are going to play a factor in that. I think they probably already got it. There's actuaries everywhere probably already got this stuff projected out. And we don't know who the president's going to be, so we can't blame whoever the president is going to be the next 4 years. But
well, I don't think the reparations are ever going to happen. I mean, it makes for good politics, and, you know, it's basically an attempt to rebuy the black population, to turn them into chattel and say you will go out and you will vote Democrat here. But as I pointed out the other day with my analogy about Thomas Jefferson and Sally Hemings, making it actually work, it's unworkable. I mean, here you have a family that is either owed reparations for being the descendants of a slave or owes reparations for being the descendant of a slave owner. And which is it going to be?
I think in their mind, the fact that you're there's no a little bit pregnant. So if you were partially a slave, well, then you got to give up some gibs.
The same thing applies the other way there. And if you're partially a slave owner, then you're completely a slave owner. You know, sauce for the goose.
Yeah. It's wherever the money's going to come from, the bankers are still going to be getting their beaks wet from the interest.
Yes.
45 trillion, that's a pretty sizable chunk of change. And one little parting comment.
Yeah.
I've been calling in here for three months now about masks, debating masks. You haven't
Yes.
changed one person's mind. It's time
Nope.
to quit calling in and talking about masks. That's my vote. That's all I got.
Well,
Thanks, Mike.
I don't think the masks are effective. Now, of course, they're adding goggles and face shields, and the next thing it'll be Ray Helvetic suits and isolation gear. All right, thank you for the phone call. We're going to switch over to Tom in Florida. Hello, Tom. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, Michael, good day to you. And I 100% agree, Michael. Reparations will never happen, I don't believe. Well, pitchforks will come out if that happens. But listen, I want to get back to that first caller, Dave. First caller, Dave, always says petrodollars. Well, Trump's kept the fuel prices pretty low there, Dave, with your petrodollars. So just want you to know that. And on top of that, Mike, what's a bigger trade, the oil industry or the drug trade?
The drug trade.
That too. There you go. And also getting back to he's talking about Trump on the flights. What about Barry Soetoro Hussein Obama, whose probably daddy was Frank Marshall Davis, and
Yes.
he was following the rules of radicals, Dave. Barry Soetoro Hussein Obama and Mushelli were Sal Lewinsky rule for radical lovers, okay? So let's get that straight with the Obamas and the demon rats. But going back now to what I really want to talk about, Mike, and Michael, this screener, I want to talk about Lebanon. What happened in Lebanon, Lebanon back up until 1932, Michael, was actually majority Christian. Now
Yes.
it's in the minority, the Christian minority. That was the Riviera of the Middle East. That was actually it was the French Riviera in the Middle East in the 1930s, Lebanon.
Yeah.
Now, the bomb that exploded yesterday. And like I said, I believe the Christians in Lebanon make up like 22% or 24% of the population now there, which is what they're trying to do here with all these illegal aliens in this country. They want to basically turn the white Anglo-Christians in this country into the minority. That's what your callers need to understand. So getting back to that bomb yesterday, that had the equivalent of 3 Moabs. That salt, whatever what was that they used, the chemical like
Ammonium
fertilizer.
nitrate.
Yes, that had the equivalent of dropping 3 Moabs right on that same spot. If you notice, a Moab weighs 22,000 pounds when it's dropped out of the bomb bay. And they say that blast had the equivalent of 80,000 pounds of, I guess almost equivalent of TNT, I guess. But what I don't understand is, now in that was a port area of Lebanon, Beirut, correct, Mike?
Yes, and it destroyed the port.
Isn't that the same place where 273 Marines got murdered in that area? When he blew up the barracks around that area?
Close to it.
Yeah, I believe it was close to where the terrorists blew up 273 Marines. That was under Ronald Reagan's administration. I do remember that. So that was pretty kind of coincidental how that went down with that bomb blast over there yesterday. I guess they're still counting the bodies, or it basically looked like a little atomic bomb. Actually, if you looked at the video, it's
a lot of people have made that analogy that but that's not a mushroom cloud; it's a concussion wave, and they're saying it's roughly a fifth of the force of the Hiroshima bomb, which is kind of interesting given that tomorrow's the anniversary of the bombing of Hiroshima.
That's what I was getting ready to say, Mike. Tomorrow is the anniversary, isn't it?
Yes.
Of the bomb. So I thought that was kind of strange. But, and getting back to some of your callers, there they go, Trump this, Trump that. Like you say, Mike, you got 2 of the lesser evils with Trump. You put that bumbling buffoonery Biden there. We don't even know yet who his VP is going to be. It could even be that Karen Bass. Who knows? Who knows who crazy these demon rats are. So, that's what I got to say. But here's what I really also want to say, Mike. What about this guy, Ed Buck? You heard about the latest charges against this guy?
Oh, yeah. 4 additional felonies. 2 more dead bodies.
And he was bringing I didn't notice, but he was paying for these black guys. One guy, I believe, came 700 miles to his mansion to have sex with him. And the other guy, I believe, lived within the vicinity of where his mansion's at. And he went out and he solicited these guys on the internet, I guess, or suppose. And and they're both OD'd. And I think a third guy OD'd, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? There's a third guy that OD'd?
Yeah, there was the first one who OD'd, and then these two additional also OD'd on meth. That was his thing, was shooting these guys up with meth and then having sex with them.
Yes, and he donated $2 million to Hillary Clinton. He donated $500,000 to Adam Schiff. He donated $500,000 to Newsom, the governor of that state, who, by the way, that governor's related to Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah.
You know that, Mike?
Yep.
Well, this guy, Ed Buck, they said in total has almost dished out $4.5 million to all these Democrats. And what really disgusted me more than anything, Mike, yesterday was what I saw, was when Ted Cruz was having that hearing with that Arono, and she's these Democrats are absolutely insane. Okay?
Yes.
They want our cities to burn down. They were tearing down our monuments. Like I said, why are any of these southern men in these southern states allowing their monuments to be torn down? I don't understand it. The Civil War was over, but these guys had to walk back to the South, build up their monuments. The northern guys were in these prison camps in the South. They went back to New York and Jersey and the northern states, and they built their monuments into Washington. I mean, I don't get why. Who's allowing? Where is the people mounting up and saying, "Hey, you're not touching our monuments, buddy. You're not touching nothing of ours. This is federal property." And, it's like even Goober Graham did say, "Look what's going on with that courthouse in Portland, Mike. That place is the most craziest insane place, Portland, Oregon. It's a beautiful state, by the way. If you ever been there, I've been there.
Yes, I have.
Years ago. Portland back in the 70s was a beautiful place. Now it's so radical, and all those people that are doing these protests, I guarantee you 90% of them are rule for radical Sal Lewinsky types. All these white trash pigs that are going out there doing all their looting and rioting and stuff. They're anarchists. There's no question about it. They hate this government so much they ought to be deported. I say we deport them over to, we could send them to China. That'd be a start. Wuhan. They could go there.
Yeah.
Go protest Wuhan. Or let's send them all down to Cuba. That would be a good idea. Not that far. You can ship them right there into Cuba. They can all these Antifa radical BLMs. They can all go right to Cuba. Castro could use them, or whoever's the leader down there. I forgot his name right now. Diaz. He could use those creeps. But Mike, this guy Ed Buck and the Democrat Party, they're totally. I don't know what to say. They're beyond demonic. It seems like they're controlled by cabal. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, on the evil side of cabal. That's what I meant to say. On the evil side of cabal. But hearing some of these guys call in this show on your show, Mike, Trump this, Trump that, every day it's Trump. It's Trump's fault. He did this. Yeah, Trump is not. He's not no messiah.
Well, that's not fair. We have callers on both sides. We have the ones that say, Trump has been a failure. Then you have the other side. You've got his supporters that say Trump is wonderful. He's done, all these other things. And it all comes down to he didn't do any of the things he promised us he was going to do, but he did a bunch of other stuff. Therefore, he's cool.
Well, Mike, I just got to say this, though. Biden, that guy, if he was in the power structure where Trump is right now, this country would be a total collapse, I believe. Yeah, Trump didn't do a lot of things that he should have done. He lied about a lot of things, I guess, because I guess his hands are tied. I don't know what the situation is. Washington is such a deep swamp, but, there are some things that, at least oil, I guess the price of the oil down a little lower than normal. And, I just hope,
I don't know that Trump necessarily did that. I think just the law of supply and demand did. I mean, with this COVID lockdown, people aren't driving as much. They're not buying as much gasoline. Demand is down, and that drives prices down.
Well,
we have all these shale oil companies are screaming bloody murder that they're going to go out of business unless somebody finds a way to increase oil demand. But I'll tell you, nothing increases oil demand more than having a new war.
Well, Mike, I'm going to tell you right now what I think. I'm thinking what I'm seeing. I think the Chinese are going to attack Taiwan pretty soon this week. They're going to go after Taiwan and start World War III. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, it looks like it's getting ready to blow somewhere, anywhere. Tom, got to let you go. Got more callers waiting on the line coming to the last segment of our program. We'll be right back. Looks like we're back now. We had a little bit of a technical difficulty here. And so we're back for our last segment here. And unfortunately, I don't have the...
1 second, I'll bring him back.
Okay. The callers that we had here on the line. So... Yeah, we're having, and again, you know, this is why we need your help to replace equipment and software that's not working any longer. So let's go to the phones. Bruce in Texas. Hello, Bruce. Thank you for waiting patiently. What's on your mind?
Hey, no problem. Mike, how you been doing over there in Indiana?
Doing okay, except for the technical glitches.
Okay, that's good to hear. Hey, you know, I love listening to Tom. I disagree with him a lot of times, but most of the time I don't. And the way he hits the topics, I wish I had that gift. He is, imagine if he was on TV or some Fox News, he can make a killing. But he brought up oil, you know, and that you know that oil meme people started throwing around in the early 2000s, that war for oil. I think we need to be careful about being led around like that. You know, it's all about a lot more than just oil. And by the way, have you ever considered how you're being ripped off by a gallon of oil, quote unquote, you know, ripped off, versus when you go in the store and you pay maybe $2.50 or so for a gallon of oil, I mean, of gasoline that has to be pulled out of the ground, who knows where,
yeah,
and then transported and then refined and then put in the ground again and then put in your car, you know, the cost they go, versus a bottle of clean water.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. Man, that just blows me away. I think you're old enough to remember when water out of the tap was just as good as that. It was going to cost maybe 2 cents for a glass, you know.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah, yeah. And he had some callers back, and I don't like ragging on callers, but I just want to caution people, like I said, it's like the war for oil meme. It's distractions, you know, when you hear, oh, they're all working together, it's all one big club, because, you know, Country X did a deal with Country Y at one time. Well, that means that they're working together. I think that's kind of almost a sign.
Hey, we're getting some distortion on the phone line again. Anyway, we're getting close to the end of our program here, and Bruce, I'm sorry you kind of faded off there at the end. Sounded like a compression error, and our technoids are going to be looking at the problems that we had at today's show once the show is over, which is just about now here. There's the music. Please stay tuned for John Stadmiller. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. Please spread the word of whatreallyhappened.com. Spread the word of Republic Broadcasting. Please donate. It is that serious. We'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.